AP Gov. This is going to be some FRQ review. I'm going to start just today with a concept application question. This was last year's concept application question, so this is the one you're going to need to write in 15 minutes. Basically, they're giving you this political scenario, and then you have to answer these 3 questions. I think this is very doable in 15 minutes. I would imagine most kids did it in 15 minutes. So, that's the good news there. So last year's, I'm just going to go ahead and actually what I want you to do is I want you to just pause the video and then look at the prompts here. Think about how you would answer these, okay? Think about how you would answer these, and then I'll go over it. So just go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so this one says, since 2008, the Alliance Defending Freedom, a conservative Christian interest group, has promoted an annual event known as Pulpit Freedom Sunday. On this occasion, pastors are encouraged to challenge a provision of the tax law known as the Johnson Amendment, which prohibits political activity by certain nonprofit organizations, including religious organizations. While the Johnson Amendment does not restrict religious leaders from speaking out regarding social issues, it does prohibit them from contributing money to political campaigns or speaking out in favor or against candidates running for political office. On Pulpit Freedom Sunday, as an act of civil disobedience, pastors and religious leaders preach openly about the moral qualifications of candidates seeking office. So civil disobedience means they're just not obeying that law and they just do it anyways. After reading the scenario, please respond to A, B, and C below. Describe an action Congress could take to address the concerns of the interest group in the scenario. All right, first thing is you're going to want to restate the prompt. So you'd say an action Congress could take to address the concerns of the interest group in the scenario would be to pass a law reversing the Johnson Amendment or getting rid of the Johnson Amendment. If you look at their scoring rubric, Congress could pass a law that would reverse the Johnson Amendment. Congress could pass a law to allow religious organizations to participate more directly in politics. I scored this one last year as a reader. Most kids said the first one here. They said Congress could pass a law that would reverse the Johnson Amendment. In the context of the scenario, explain how partisan divisions could prevent the action described in Part A. All right. When you guys first started writing concept application questions, you would launch right into this part. You'd say partisan divisions could prevent the action described in Part A because if you have a divided Congress, it's going to prevent this law from passing. In the context of the scenario, you need to bring the scenario in here. All right, so you need to say, if you said in A, Congress could pass a law to reverse the Johnson Amendment. Right, so you would need to bring that into the scenario as well. So you'd simply say, if Congress is trying to pass a law that is reversing the Johnson Amendment, partisan divisions could prevent the action described in Part A. All right, well, what are partisan divisions? So in other words, the difference between the parties. Well, how do Republicans and Democrats going to feel about reversing the Johnson Amendment? Well, Republicans are being that they're more about that free exercise clause and that freedom of religion. They're going to want to see, a reversal of the Johnson Amendment, whereas Democrats maybe not so much. Okay, so you just explain that and then just simply say that's going to prevent that reversal of the Johnson Amendment. If you look at their rubric here, now they're pretty lean here. Okay, this is one of those you really need to write it out, okay? Partisan divisions make it more difficult to pass a law because parties adhere to different ideological points of view. If Congress and the president are from different political parties, the president might threaten to veto the legislation, all right? Okay, C says, explain why the Alliance Defending Freedom might argue that their constitutional rights are threatened by the Johnson Amendment. Well, where do we as individuals and groups find our constitutional rights? That's going to be in the Bill of Rights. So what part of the Bill of Rights might they argue is being violated? All right, once again, you go back to scoring guidelines. The Alliance Defending Freedom and other religious groups might argue that their First Amendment rights are being violated. The Alliance Defending Freedom and other religious groups might argue that their freedom of speech or religion is being violated. Most kids either said free speech or they said the First Amendment when I scored this last year. I think one of the key things to take from this, and I think one of the things you guys walked past as we started writing these earlier this year, in the context of the scenario. So you need to bring this into your response in Part B. You need to bring whatever action you're describing in Part A into Part B. All right, hope you found this helpful. I'm definitely going to do some more of these this week.